You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome on, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Morgan Burkett. I'm so used to saying Zach Chavalella, Mike Greger. Yeah, we're here now. Mike's a special guest today. Very, very different intro just because I'm just seeing Zach's face, and it's a little weird not to see him in this picture for some weird reason. But how are you guys feeling?
Doing fine. Doing fine.
Got the Embiid debut on in the background.
Oh,
yeah. What a way to welcome a guest, Brian. What a way to welcome a guest.
It was terrible. You know what? I was so focused on my salad. Like I'm still like I'm looking at my salad right now. Like shit. Like should I choose the salad over the podcast? Like did I just leave the podcast right now? Eat the salad.
What's in the salad? What kind of salad are we talking?
I don't know. We got this spot called Honey Grow. It's like a kale chicken Caesar salad, and it's like
crack. It's crack, dude.
It is.
All right. Well, fair. End of the podcast. All right. See you guys.
I never had the Honey Grow version, but I love a kale Caesar. That's
yeah, for sure.
I don't think I've ever had a kale Caesar in my life.
Well,
welcome to the future, man.
I usually sub out the kale and put spinach in because I feel like I'm Popeye or something. I don't want to say I almost slipped up, but I did not, so I caught myself.
You know who did slip up? CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys.
What, bro?
And Jerry Jones with the beautiful
sunshine. Wow. There you go.
I mean, I get it. You know, you have all the money in the world to make things like that, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Eagles defeated the Cowboys 34-6. Defense did their thing. We'll get to that. Offense did their thing. What are some instant takeaways you guys could take from that game where it's like, hey, they're actually, you know, this team is actually doing and actually is who we believe they are?
I didn't get that, man. I wanted to feel good about the game, and I wanted to feel that, you know, some of the issues we were worried about kind of alleviated themselves. But realistically, what I saw is just one team so much better than the other that they couldn't lose. Like, they overcame a lot. Don't get me wrong. Like, maybe we can get into this conversation later, but the reffing was god awful. If that was a closer game,
terrible.
You'd hear a lot more complaints. There were so many calls that either shouldn't have been calls or calls made that should have even went the other way. Missed calls all over the place. It was terrible. If the game was closer, I feel like you'd see a lot more complaints about that because that was terribly officiated. But the Eagles won anyways, right? And so, you know, it was one-sided, but like the defense, I think, you know, they allowed a drive, one long drive. The defense played pretty well. The offense, to me, still is working out some kinks. Jaylen did not look good. Even the stats, like they were okay. They're pretty good. If you look at just the stats, you look at their numbers, he had a pretty good game, but he just looked uncomfortable. Dallas got to him early and often. It took him a while to settle in. He was missing some throws. He was holding on the ball for too long. Again, like it's the same thing we were kind of talking about last week where it just feels like the Eagles are too good to be playing the way they're playing. Like at the end of the day, you could just throw a quick out to A.J. Brown all the way down the field. And yet
I would have loved that.
He only did it twice, and it was after he got sacked 3 times. It's like you can just do that all the time. You can just give the ball to Saquon and probably win this game. Like Saquon, they could have not passed the ball against Dallas and still probably won that game. They could have only thrown a quick out to A.J. Brown and still probably won that game, right? And just like sometimes it just feels like they're doing too much. They're still getting in their way a bit. So, yeah, it was a weird game for me. At the end of the day, they blew out the Cowboys in Dallas, which they haven't won in a long time. Saquon got his first win against Dallas, so a lot of positives. But to me, not what you necessarily want to see. Now, that being said, they are going into a short week against a team they need to beat. So maybe they had their eyes on the future a little bit. And maybe that was the case, but that's my 2 cents on the game.
I unfortunately did not I listened to the game. I did not see the game. I went to a concert for like the first time in like 3 years. So drove basically as far as I listened to the game as far as it would take me into Baltimore. So that's basically my 2 cents in terms of what did I watch. But I will say in terms of listening to the game, it seemed like the defense, again, like as Morgan was saying, pretty much carried the team. Turnovers. They were all over Dallas in terms of that. It's something that Sirianni, Fangio. I don't want to get the person's name incorrect. There is a running backs coach and an assistant head coach.
Singleton?
Yes, Singleton. Jamal Singleton. He really does emphasize in watching the turnover footage from across the league and pretty much in terms of just football in general. So, kudos to that because I felt the Eagles defensively were very prepared. I did think that there were just kind of watching highlights again, like or condensed versions of the game, whatever. That there were on offense, as you were saying, Morgan. There was a little bit of kinks. Trying to get somebody like Devonta Smith more involved in the game is something that Philadelphia has in mind, but didn't necessarily do versus Dallas. I think in terms of the offense, probably Philadelphia fans thought that they were going to eat a little bit more against a team like Dallas. However, I put out a joke of a prediction. And just, and on Saturday, right, going into that Dallas game, boy, was I close. Not in close in terms of Dallas's points, but in Philadelphia's points. So, at the end of the day, you feel good about that in terms of the result. But the result is literally what you expected. It's not like you're sitting there saying, oh, we were tested finally, you beat a good team, and there's something to really take home from that. I don't think that Dallas is a good team. I don't think that version of Dallas is a good team. In fact, it's worse than the team that was on the field, probably, originally. I don't think, but I will. So, we'll see on a short week, Thursday. Do I think it's a trap game? Absolutely not. I think that takes away from Washington. But I think this is probably the first time in a long time where you can start to sit there and say, is this a measuring stick game?
That's fair. How you feeling about the game, Mike?
So I think I found someone who's more skeptical than me and Morgan, man. But I can't say I disagree with anything you said. I mean, all the concerns that we've had about this offense and Jalen Hurts specifically were still there. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to beat bad teams on your schedule, and they won 34-6. So that was my main takeaway. Beat up on the bad teams on your schedule, and they've done that for the past couple weeks during this win streak. So, and just generally looking out at the NFC, I think I said this before in one of our threads. I just think that it's kind of a down year outside of the Lions, right? It's kind of a down year. Now, I think the 49ers are going to be there. They're getting healthy. They got McCaffrey back. But are you scared of the Vikings? Absolutely not. Maybe the Packers, Washington. I'm not scared of Washington. I mean, we'll find out for real. But the Giants stink, and the Cowboys obviously suck. So if they beat Washington and if they beat them handily, then I don't think there's anyone stopping them in the East. And then you're right there for a top 2 seed, I think. So as bad. I mean, there's some Twitter. I don't know if I shared it with the group, but they're saying only people in Philadelphia are trashing the Eagles. A 6-2, 7-2 team. It's kind of fun.
Andrew Brandt tweet when
it was Andrew Brandt. Yep.
Everybody thinks the Eagles are Super Bowl contenders except their own fans.
Yeah, which is true. But I mean, I don't know if he's watching them every week like we are, as closely as we are. There's many flaws, but I think, as Eric said, the defense is what has impressed me the most. I mean, this defense looks legit right now. We finally got some competent linebackers. The corners are playing well. There's a lot to like about this team right now, and whether that's because this is a watered down NFC or they have an easy schedule, just ride the wave, man.
Also, just before you go on with the next point, I want to do a quick shout out to Bobby King, because I think this season he deserves the kind of credit and praise that Jeff Stout would normally gets. Look at these linebackers. I dumped on them because I didn't know what to expect. I thought this defense was going to be leaky, and you want to talk about defense that's solid? The Philadelphia Eagles, in terms of passing and rushing defense, is an elite defense in the NFL right now.
I completely agree with that. And on the opposite side of that, right? We spoke. You guys mentioned, Jalen Hurts not looking comfortable, right? I feel like this game, and I mentioned this a little bit on the Stockwatch show, is like the offensive line just wasn't there. Like the protection wasn't there. Like if you look at the amount of pressures allowed, like I mean, besides the 5 sacks, right? You had Fred Johnson who allowed 4 pressures, Mekhi Becton 4 pressures, Cam Jurgens 3 pressures, Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson 2 pressures each, and they all graded out below 70. And the wildest part is Cam Jurgens didn't even grade out above 30 for PFF's grading system. And to me, that was wildly alarming because you have a healthy AJ Brown, you have a healthy Devontae Smith. There's at times where it looks like, even in the run game where you're not seeing the holes open for Saquon Barkley. I get, at the end of the day, we're going to look at the quarterback like we look at, a starting pitcher, right? It's their team. Like they're the ones that's the ace on the mound. But the offensive line, like my fear is it was Mike Parsons' game, right? He was eating between Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens because they didn't allow this many pressures against Jacksonville at all. Like they were disowning Jacksonville, and he had a clean pocket. Although Jalen Hurts is good against the blitz, it's just, you're right. He didn't look comfortable, and it doesn't seem like the offensive line is at that point where they're comfortable yet. I don't know if it's them missing Jordan Mailata. I don't know what the case could be, but they're not. It's weird. They're not as top tier as everybody's saying that they are this season, and I feel like that's a huge cause of concern going forward.
Well, I think one thing to be said on that is that Jalen Hurts seemed to hold the ball a lot longer that game than we've seen in the last couple of weeks. And I don't know, again, I haven't seen the all 22, but it seems like something with the deep passing concepts just isn't working. It isn't getting people open. Now, credit to the Dallas defense. I think that, they're having a down season. They definitely have good players on that defense, right? And those good players had a good game for most of that game. Obviously, Eagles still put up 30 plus, right? But you talk about Micah Parsons, put him on Fred Johnson. He was having a field day, right? And, Trevon Diggs, he'll make plays and he'll give up plays, but that's what he does, right? That's kind of the, live by the sword, die by the sword kind of player he is, right? And so to their credit, right, it's not a bad defense individually. I still think they're not a good team, and that defense was on the field for a lot of the game. But something about this deep passing game, again, like the couple of concepts we've seen are either AJ Brown making or Devontae Smith, to his credit, making a crazy catch where they're not that open, but there's a trust factor there, or there's some guy just wide open, right? We haven't really seen those nuances of the deep passing game yet. I don't know if it's Jalen Hurts just isn't reading it well, if they just haven't installed it yet. And granted, like, I don't think this is the game where you go and you install a bunch of new deep passes, right? It doesn't make sense. You have a short week. You're probably saving that for the Thursday game that actually counts for something, right? But it just seems like Jalen's not seeing what he's supposed to be seeing. He's holding the ball for too long. Again, I don't know if he's just missing routes, if he's just not comfortable in the pocket, but a very different kind of tempo to this offense this week than we've seen in the past. And, to the offensive line's credit, he had time on a lot of those, and he's just either not hitting his check down, there is no check down, or he's just holding on the ball for too long. Again, you go back to that.
Is it taking too long for the wide receivers routes to develop, you feel like?
Potentially, right? Like, I think the biggest thing that this offense still doesn't have, and they're in desperate need of, is a guy to take the top off. I get that, like, AJ Brown can do that in his own way. Devontae Smith can do that in his own way, but you need that third receiver to really take the top off and let these guys operate. Because, as much as Devontae Smith can do that, he gives so much to this offense in that intermediate passing game and the short passing game as well. You can't just have him run deep on every play, right? And they're trying to get that with Jahan Dotson. We just haven't seen it. They're trying to get Anaya Smith involved as a gadget player. Hasn't really been working out. They need someone else, right? And Dallas Goedert's, not that, right? You can't really get that from your tight ends. So there's something there that just doesn't seem to be, fixed. And I don't know. Maybe we see that on Thursday. That would be huge, right? And like, I'm not counting them out. I'm not discrediting the pass game, but that's something you need to see now against Washington, where it's like, hey, listen, we have to pass the ball deep. You saw what the Steelers were able to do when they can, give it to a receiver behind that defense. This defense is susceptible to those passes, but you have to find them.
I think part of that in the lack of the deep passing game, and just in terms of, kind of looking at Dallas here and how they mitigated Saquon Barkley, 14 rushes, 66 yards. Do you think that's in any chance taking away the rushing game, and not necessarily taking it away, because it was still there. You tried it. It wasn't necessarily that they shied away from it, but it was mitigated. It wasn't as scary as other teams kind of felt, obviously, against Saquon Barkley. So if you're able to manage the running game, you're kind of paying attention more to the pass. Do you think that kind of takes away from Jalen finding somebody deep downfield if the running game's not necessarily getting the defense to bite as hard?
Well, I think the one thing on the defense of Dallas, like Overshawn, man, he had a hell of a game. What a player. He's going to be a problem. He's going to be an absolute problem. When you have guys like that standing on their head making play after play, I think you saw what happens, right? He just can't keep doing that all game. I think that's what happened. But you face a defense that has a couple of those guys, now you're in an issue. We didn't see the creativity from the run game either. I'd say that much. Like, there's a lot of inside runs. And then Dallas was just running, what I know is a crash, where you just kind of get everyone inside, kind of plug up those gaps, make it bounce. But yeah, just a lack of creativity there. Again, it's a short week. Maybe they're just kind of looking ahead to Washington. But overall, just felt like the offensive game plan was both too complicated and overly simplistic at the same time. It was a weird mix.
Yeah, and getting back to Jalen Hurts, just I haven't watched the all-22 tape either, but just from I was reading some of the stuff that Fran Duffy was talking about, just the pre-snap stuff. A lot of those pressures were undiagnosed, and that's on Jalen. Like, he should be picking these things up, especially on third downs. Like, he showed some video where there was receivers wide open, and he just held the ball too long or didn't see them, and that's 100% on him. And this is something that's going back to last year and the year before. This is not new stuff. It's just not being corrected. And I mean, we joke or talk about him not being able to read a defense. Obviously, he can read a defense, but he just seems a little flustered when the first read isn't there, or he has a problem picking up blitz protection and stuff like that. So I think this is just who he is. And is it good enough? It could be good enough if this offense is as explosive as we think it is. And I mentioned they could use a real deep threat to really take it down the field, and I agree with that. But this is who they are right now, and they're winning games, and it might be good enough. But is Jalen? He's not in that. I don't know that he's in that elite level of the Mahomes, Josh Allen, that stratosphere.
I will say this, just in terms of, and we were talking, and Morgan, you brought up Overshown. There was one specific, that specific play where Hurts throws a touchdown to Goddard. Hurts said this about the play. He says, we didn't turn the protection to Overshown. So we ended up coming free through the gap. It was either he got to get the ball out or make a play. And he did make a play to Goddard. I think Goddard made a better catch maybe than what the play was. So to your point, Mike, there is a little bit of, the talent that's on the field kind of meeting Hurts in the middle, if you will, on that. But I think it's a little harsh of a criticism not to put I wouldn't put Hurts in the elite, like top 5 of the league, because in my opinion, he gets a lot more done on the ground and as a complement to the ground game on the offense than in the air. But I felt like, with the exception of throwing one interception over the last, handful of weeks, we were seeing Hurts kind of turn the table. Now,
that interception doesn't count to some of his eyes. Just want to put that out there. It's been ruled by the NFL. To some of his
eyes. No, I will say, man, like I thought he was turning the corner, but it's a point that I've been pounding home for a while now. Until we see more complete teams that include a solid defense. I don't know what to say and what the read is regarding what this offense shows.
I wonder how Jerry Jones is going to prepare the Cowboys for when they come to Philly. Because I don't know about you guys, but what I've heard is it's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Front row. Yo, his answer was solid, by the way. He's like, everybody knows where the sun is. Where's the moon at? I was like, dang, he brought the fucking moon, dude. Yeah.
Well, going into the Jalen Hurts stuff, and you mentioned pre-snaps before, Mike. I don't know about anybody else, but is it aggravating anybody? I don't mean this to be a Debbie Downer show. Like, yes, the Eagles won. They're progressing. They're going in the right direction, right? But you still got to, look at what's not working with them. Pre-snap, is anybody going crazy over the fact that they wait to the last second to snap the ball? Like, it seems like, within the last 5 seconds, that's when they start doing the motions. They get the guys in place, and it's just like at that 1 second mark, like, is there too much on Jalen's plate that it's overwhelming to the point where he's actually reading the defense a little too much pre-snap?
Lane Johnson was talking about that a couple weeks ago too, before they went on that.
Another baldy talking great.
But yeah, he was mentioning that they need to get the ball out before it gets to the end of the play clock. Yeah, I don't. Maybe he is trying too hard. Didn't they say they were making a concerted effort to make him do more of that instead of putting it all on Cam Jurgens? I think they said that in training camp, actually. So maybe that is part of the problem. I don't know.
The thing that they haven't done much of that I could see making their way back, and realistically, what I think it is that you have an offense that should ideally be together for the next couple of years. So if you teach these things to Jalen Hurts and like this year, and you're able to settle those protections, year 2, year 3, it should be night and day, right? You need an offseason to kind of learn these things. The thing that we saw, especially with Doug Peterson and with Carson Wentz early on in his career, is just kill calls, right? You have a pre-made kill call, and then you go up, you see what the defense is doing, and if you don't like it, you kill it, right? You have 2 options, right? It's 1 or 2. It's not, hey, we got to diagnose, we got to set the protection, then we got to alert our hots, right? Then we have, audibles that we can get out of. It's like, it's a lot sometimes, right? And again, like you're teaching this to Jalen Hurts in the hopes that, year 2, year 3, you're getting it all down. And then, your playbook opens up, you can do so many more things, but it's a simple adjustment. Just go, hey, listen, you could also do like a check with me, right? Where like, we haven't seen Jalen Hurts look to the sideline very often, where it's like, hey, you do a hard count. Okay, we see what the defense is in. We go check with the sideline, right? It's an easy way. There's a lot of easy things to do. And again, this is usually what you see with, rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts isn't that, but he is learning his, 47th offense in as many years, right? So it's a lot on the guy. And for something that I don't think it's a negative of his game, but something he definitely has to work on. That would be an easy thing to do. And I could see them going to more of that. Just, especially we haven't seen as much hurry up. We haven't seen much of that. It's a really easy thing to do with the hurry up offense, just to have a quick little kill call. We just haven't seen much of it. So maybe they're keeping it in their back pocket, but an easy adjustment.
Now that we've kind of, I don't want to say dug very deep into the offense, right? Defensively, I'm at a loss of words because we have competent linebackers. We have a shutdown corner or 2. We have Cooper DeJean, who's in a class of his own, apparently. And Jalen Carter is just throwing haymakers every time the ball snaps. They're finally coming into their own. We're seeing Vic Fangio do creative things with this defense. What stood out to you guys in this game besides Quinyon Mitchell? Because that's the easy answer. As a cop-out answer, I don't want to hear that because he's just out there chilling nowadays, just chilling on the sideline.
Man, I think the easiest one to jump at, especially for me, is probably just the constant combination of Zach Bond and Kobe Dean. But I will. Duck is gonna steal my thunder. The safeties are still sus. At the end of the day here, Gardner Johnson, 7 tackles, an interception, and I believe a pass defended. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have your times where you're not going to look solid. And I think it's because, there's a lot of responsibility that maybe not everything is going to be working smooth all the time. I thought Gardner Johnson did well within himself, but then again, you're going against Cooper Rush, and what I will say respectively is for the most part a washed offense. That's so. I mean, to expect to sit there and praise too highly, I think would be egregious on the Eagles. And as far as being an Eagles fan in general, but it's something that I looked at in terms of Gardner Johnson and the way that I kind of evaluate his game over the season. I've given him enough garbage. I've given him his flowers at time. This game he gets his flowers. So yeah, that's kind of who stepped away. Obviously, aside from the linebackers.
Yeah, for me, it was two guys, and not necessarily for this year. I mean, who knows? Especially if you're going to go on a deep playoff run. But for me, it was two guys that really it bodes well for the future, and that's one, Isaiah Rodgers, man. Like, to his credit, came in. The defense hasn't really missed a beat. The biggest thing for me that I saw over the last couple of games is just communication. Like, his communication just isn't as good as Slay's. The couple of completions that you do see, generally when he's in high zone, he's not passing guys off that well to his safety, et cetera, et cetera. Not communicating with the cut player, whatever it is, right? So and that's going to come, right? He's been off football for a year. He's still a young player, but man, athletically, in terms of technique, all that, I would love to have Slay back. I still think he's better at this point. But going into the future, regardless of what happens with Slay, you're in a good position there with Isaiah Rodgers. And I think Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon Mitchell, man, you got your two, corners. I think they probably move Quinyon to the boundary side now. But man, like two lockdown corners, you're going to be set for a while. I'd give him a long-term contract already. Like Isaiah Rodgers, he's been exactly what you hoped he would be. The other guy that stood out to me, and this is a bit more of a long shot, but Jaylen Hunt, man, he showed some stuff. Man. He's athletic. The couple of things they had issues with him, coming out of the draft was like, how is he going to shoot his hands? How is he going to deal with these, NFL tackles and guards he's going to be facing? Man, he held his own, man. He held his own, and he has his own way of winning. But just like the athleticism to, shoot your hands, get off a block of, again, still a fairly solid Dallas offensive line, regardless of how they've been performing this year, and then get your hands up in the passing lane just to recognize that timing, all that stuff. I mean, this is a converted safety, right? Like, he's only been playing defensive line for 2 years now, I think, right? So, man, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. They're going to be able to do a lot of different things with him. Almost like a more athletic, but maybe less technically sound Nolan Smith. You get both those guys on the edge for the next couple of years. If Vic Fangio is still around, it's going to be a lot of fun in this defense, man. That's those two guys really stood out to me, but great defensive performance as a whole. Love to see the rotation at defensive tackle too. Would like to see more Jordan Davis, but all those guys rotating in kind of played their part.
Is Huff his contract expire at the end of the season?
You said
Okay.
Bryce Huff?
Yeah.
3 more years, maybe, right?
Oh,
or just
bro.
counts.
Dang. Never mind.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes you forget. I don't know. I'm just a hockey man.
Mentioning good points about the defense. Eric goes, well, Bryce Huff's going to be gone. Oh.
Well, I was going to bring it up. I was like, if Huff is gone and Jalix can, kind of get more snaps and to your point,
well, Brandon
Graham 1,000% in.
Brandon Graham's going to be gone after this year. That's where he fills in right away, I think.
Well, we know what we're doing in the draft then. Jeez.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that in the draft. There's no way you pass that up. I'm not sure there's any good edge rushers coming out of the draft, but they definitely need to invest in that.
Yeah, I think you guys covered it all. The only other guy I'll throw in there is Milton Williams. I've always liked him. Always said he should be getting more snaps, and he had another good game. Really good game with the fumble recovery and everything. But he just always seems to be around the ball, getting pressure. Big fan of Milton Williams.
He deserves a contract this offseason, and it has to be with Philly. If they don't extend him, I mean, you're taking away a big part of your defensive line because Jordan Davis is taking a backseat to Milton Williams and Booker. I forget his first name.
I think it's something that's overlooked as far as the importance of the defense is. I mean, I granted it's obviously the coaching in terms of what we're used to, and then Fangio coming in and kind of making it all gel together. At the end of the day, yeah, you have talent on the team, but you're also talking about guys that you maybe at the beginning of the year weren't necessarily sure if they were going to be a bust. And I hate to use that word so early, like on guys like Nolan Smith or Nakobe Dean, because you just don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. But I mean, one of the most important aspects is not just the talent on the field, but Fangio and his way of making sure you understand coverages and structure, and honestly, straight up developing the young guys. I love that he's not afraid to play the young guys. He is not dependent on the vets,
which is something that Jim Schwartz was so opposed to, and it irritated the life out of me. But yeah, I mean, the defense has looked solid, and they're growing as time goes by. It's time, gentlemen. We're at the 30-minute mark. As you guys see my daughter in the background. Eagles, Commanders. Eagles are currently in first place in the NFC East. Commanders are right behind them. The Washington Commanders versus the Steelers was a game that we all had to
go ahead.
That I feel like we all had to really watch and to understand what actually the Commanders are doing offensively, and how they can be stopped, right? We saw the Steelers apply a significant amount of pressure, which made Jayden Daniels uncomfortable. I mean, to start off, Commanders are not great against teams above 500, right? And we saw TJ Watt, we saw Highsmith make him extremely uncomfortable out of the pocket. Cam Hayward coming up with a clutch sack. And I feel like that's the secret sauce, right? Which is weird because, like, you would think for a rookie quarterback, the secret sauce is to blitz him and make him fold under pressure. But Daniels has been balling out. And I feel like as he's been balling out, the Eagles defense is finally getting to a point where you guys can do what Pittsburgh did, but better. Like, you have the tools, but better. Nobody's better than TJ Watt, but still, you can use a guy like Zach Bond. You can get creative with a guy like Cooper DeJean. I mean, when's the last time we saw Cooper actually like rush the passer? Ever since he's been acclimated with this defense, they've been on a tear. So using a weapon like him and using Bond and just allowing guys like Milton Williams and Jalen Carter to flourish, I feel like that's going to be the secret recipe to really make this guy strong. I think he only had like a completion percentage of like 12 or 20% when he was under pressure or blitzed.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think the Eagles kind of do have like the whole sum of the parts analogy being better. I think you don't need necessarily a star. You need the coverage. You need to be smart with your blitzes. And honestly, to your point, Fangio said about as much. He said that, he noticed how the Steelers rushed a lot of guys, like 4 or 5. But it's not necessarily stopping, again, like he mentioned this too. It's not necessarily stopping at Hayward and Watt and Highsmith, and I think Highsmith actually might have got injured in that game against the Commanders. But to me, the Eagles' depth is something that kind of makes up for the star power, if you will, that the Steelers have. So if Fangio's on the same page and realizing this pretty much as the moment that we're saying on here, I have to believe that this is going to be a point of emphasis to make Jayden Daniels uncomfortable. Now, on the other hand of things, I think Daniels has something like 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Pretty solid season to date, especially from a rookie. And Washington's offense is among the elite as well. If I'm remembering correctly, we'll see, because this is a game where I think for the most part in our experience watching the Eagles this season against the Giants and the Cowboys, it's like the NFC least, right? And then you go Eagles and the Commanders, and you're like, this is a game where it's a rivalry game. The NFC East could be prime time. This is prime time football talk, because you're talking about an elite defense against an elite offense. It's just at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that defense wins. So we'll get to that. But nonetheless, I'm excited just to see the sort of experiments and whatever Fangio is cooking up. I have so much faith in Fangio, it's not even funny right now, just in the way that he notices and talks about the Commanders' approach.
Yeah, he should be the head coach, right?
Stop.
I'm so mad because I was thinking about it. I'm like, I make a comment like that, and I'm like, I don't know where it comes with a bomb.
No, it's funny. We said this on Saturday. It's just like, man, this guy, if he, he probably is going to choose to be just like, stay in his lane and be a defensive coordinator from here on out. So that's just such a fantastic, you got a guy that just wants to do his role to the best. I mean, I'm not going to, give him the crazy. I know I'm complimenting the guy. I'm not going to give him crazy flowers and, compare him to, Johnston or something like that.
Are you
But
dating his daughter or something?
No. I'm just happy as hell with what we were seeing and what my expectation was. Seriously, at the end of the day, were your expectations of an elite defense? I would say all of us here thought no.
Not with this group, and I think that's what's blowing all of our minds. Especially not a guy like Zach Bond. Like, damn, like if they don't extend him, that's gonna be the biggest loss.
And it started a little shaky, right? And now it's just they picked it up and they're just locked in. So I mean, that's all Fangio, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, that's and what I love about it is like guys are playing together, like, and more keep me honest. The way like you're seeing the defensive line, like guys like Jalen Carter, who rush the middle, right? And he's forcing like his game plan. Like, he's forcing the quarterback to go to his left and run into like a guy like Nolan Smith, or go to the right, run into a guy like Josh Sweat. Like last year, Josh Sweat said that the defensive line wasn't rushing together. This year, you're seeing that from even like the reserves, and it's like shit. Like this is a really good defense, and I don't know. I'm at a loss of words with how they're playing.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I'm going to be very interested to see because Mike Tomlin, obviously he's had a track record of kind of putting rookie quarterbacks in prison, and he kind of did it again there at the end of that game. So is this something where they just kind of study that blueprint and do some of the same things, or is this Fangio working his own magic and coming up with his own way to stop them? Then I don't know the answer to that, but it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, man. I mean, talking about Fangio, like the biggest thing is just he's seen so much football. He's seen so much. Like every situation that you could probably put that defense in, he's seen it, right? And so that factors into the game plan. That factors into the communication with your defense. Like those little tiny things that we're talking about. Realistically, they're nuances, right? Like they're little things, and there's things you don't think of as, especially like a young coach, which the Eagles have had. Last year was probably the worst it's been, right? But just those little things, like, hey, we need to force this guy to away from his throwing arm, right? Like little things like that, like it should be obvious, but you have to constantly have those conversations throughout the week, right? And you have to constantly have these conversations between the players and all that stuff. And again, Vic Fangio's just seen it. He knows if you're going into this situation, how to communicate with the team going into the week, how to game plan for that, et cetera, et cetera. What I think, going into this game is going to be, probably the most important is, I think we talk about confusing young quarterbacks or putting pressure on young quarterbacks by bringing pressure, right? And we talked about it with Jayden Daniels, right? Like it seems to be that he does okay, right? He's not a typical first-year quarterback that you can just blitz him and he panics, right? He doesn't make too many mistakes. He's pretty smart. The other way to confuse quarterbacks, which Vic Fangio does really well, is throwing a bunch of different coverages at them and a bunch of different looks and making them figure it out. What that entails, right, and what that necessitates is you have to be able to win one-on-one on the defensive line. You just have to be able to rush for. And the Eagles, that's the one thing I was going to say about the last game, man. Like, where was Josh Sweat? He's been really good this year. I don't know where he was last game. He wasn't doing all that much. Bryce Huff got one sack. That was his tackle for the game. Like,
whoa! He got a strip sack. You got to say it right.
My fault.
Okay, he got double points.
That's 3 stats on one play, man. But I would like to see those stats a little more spread out throughout the game, man. But that's going to be the key, right? Those guys have to win. They have to win one-on-one battles because if I know the Vic Fangio defense of what he wants to do, he's going to bring Nakobe Dean on a pressure here and there, right? He'll bring Zach Bond on a pressure here and there. But you have to deal with Austin Eckler, right? You can't just always be blitzing your linebackers. They're just gonna hit that dump off, and Austin Eckler's a problem with the ball in his hand. He still is, right? If you have him on your fantasy team like I do, you're well aware. Even if you haven't got the chance to watch a Washington game, man, like you're well aware. All you got to do is dump it to that guy in the flats, and that's at least 10 yards, right? He'll find a way.
Would you start him this Thursday? Just asking for a friend.
For you?
Against Zach Bond, I don't know, man. The way Zach Bond's been playing.
All right, I'll hit you up later. Don't worry, I got you.
My thing was going to be that Morgan. I don't know if you maybe he does kind of not he like Bond only, but either way, I have a lot of faith in this linebacking group to kind of mitigate Eckler.
100%, right? But the trade-off then is you can't be blitzing them all the time. You have to win with 4, right? And the Eagles, they can do it. They have the talent to do it. But they just had off games, right? They just had games where Josh Sweat disappears, where Jalen Carter hasn't been Jalen Carter that we know. Bryce Huff, we're not sure where he's at. Brandon Graham has made his plays, but he hasn't been consistent. Like those guys, like you need, Josh Sweat to win at least twice, 3 times. And like you need 2 sacks from him probably, right? You need that straight up. And, they might not be sacks. There might be pressures and throwaways, right? But this is one of those games where if you give that offense a chance, right? If you keep them in the game like the Eagles have been doing to a lot of teams that shouldn't be, this isn't the Jaguars. And as much as the Jaguars, aren't getting their credit, it's a different monster. And Terry McLaurin, for example, you get him in a matchup, and offensive coordinators are going to start doing this more and more. You get him in a matchup one-on-one with CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's a touchdown. I'm sorry, man. I know that he's a good dude and he's come back and he's put an edge on this defense. He's a liability in man coverage, and offensive coordinators have started to figure out what Vic Fangio, when he's dialing up man and getting receivers on CJ Gardner-Johnson. If you get him matched up with Terry McLaurin, doesn't matter how much pressure you bring, that's a touchdown.
No, that's absolutely fair. Like I know I've given him his flowers a little bit earlier, but I do have the impression, I guess, overall this season is that he'll look like he's cooked for the most part of the game, and then make like one play that it's like, all right, I guess he did that. So it's like he kind of does redeem himself a little bit. So I'm not sure where I stand at the end of the day on Gardner-Johnson. Do I think he's been as awful as people say? Not entirely, but like hasn't been necessarily great either. So it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, he's still a good run defender. He still holds his own in zone coverage, but he's in man coverage. He hasn't won very much this year at all.
I think this game is going to be solely based on the linebacker pass coverage. Honestly, like Daniels against the Steelers, like he targeted the middle of the field heavily. Like the left side, the right side was a decent amount, but the middle of the field, that was his bread and butter, right? Like if you can get a Reed Blankenship, or where the hell is Sidney Brown? Like if you get
I was
going to
say
guys,
Blankenship, dude. As soon as he said him, I was like white lightning, dude. I remember Morgan saying that.
one of them in the middle of the field with the linebackers. You got it. Like if they can hold off the middle of the field and not allow Jayden to get comfortable enough to eat off of that, I feel like it's not gonna be a cakewalk at any point, but you're keeping your offense in this game to do what they need to do on their side. Because Washington's they're not a scrub team. I mean, they weirdly remind me of the 2016 Eagles. Like they started, was that the year that they started off like 6-0 or 8-0, and then they completely fell off, missed the playoffs?
I think that was last year, man.
I was just gonna say
last year.
Carson Wentz wasn't here last year.
Yeah,
Darren Sproles.
I know what you mean. Well,
how dare I say that again? No, I will never.
To their credit.
You mean Carson Wentz's first year?
Yeah. That was
they did. Yeah.
I sent this to Brian like a little bit before, but to their credit, and this is an incredible stat. I don't know how I haven't seen this already, but so it says the Cowboys are the second team in NFL history to complete at least 17 passes and finish with fewer than 50 net passing yards. The other team was the Giants 3 weeks ago, also against the Eagles. So this is a historic defense, right? Because they're able to limit quarterbacks to short passes, right? Who on the Cowboys is taking a short pass to the crib, except for CeeDee Lamb, who was in Guantanamo Bay for most of that game, right? Like
Mingo, they traded a fourth for him.
Right. The savior of the Cowboys. My fault. But right, like same thing I'd say for the Giants, right? Like I like their rookie running back Tracy. Like he might be something, right? But there's not really that player. On the Commanders, we talk about Austin Eckler, right? Like I don't know if he's cribbing that, but he'll take those, right? And he'll make chunks out of them, right? And same with Terry McLaurin, he can do that. Like the Commanders have some guys, and the guys kind of seem to come out of the woodworks when you're playing solid football like that, right? And the defense has to worry about other guys. Like they've been able to create chunk plays out of those passes over them, right? We even seen Zach Ertz make some plays, man, like stuff like that, right? Like and so as good as this Eagles defense has been. And the tackling's been a lot better too. That's something that we haven't necessarily mentioned, but this is one of those teams 100%, right? But like, that's one of the things, maybe, CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? He misses his tackles, but he's got that chip on his shoulder where it makes other guys want to make big tackles and stuff like that too. Zach Bond, 100% Zach Bond plays a factor in not missing tackles. That dude, I haven't seen him miss a tackle all year. Like he's ridiculous. But this is now a team where you can't just play cover 4, cover 6, which Vic Fangio plays a lot, and just let those underneath passes get completed, because then Jayden Daniels starts throwing Hail Marys, and he's got a pretty good record with those.
I got a stat for you guys. This is a funny one.
Yeah, my love for the Commanders. I mean, I've been hyping this team up since the preseason. I thought they were going to be good, but this is the test, though. I mean, they're coming into Philly. This is potentially like, to win this game is probably going to be the favorite to win the division. Are they ready for that? Are they up to the task in prime time at the Link with all the crazy fans going at it? What I would do if I'm the Eagles, I might run like CJ Gardner-Johnson, like on either at Daniels or Eckler on like a Kobe Bryant, like Paul Gasol Olympics. Just take them, just send a message from the start of this game, like, this is going to be real. This is the big time now. And get the crowd into it, and then get the ball and score a touchdown, and just be like, this is it. We're the team to beat in this division.
I got a stat
message from the start.
I got a stat for you real quick that you guys might find entertaining, just pertaining to that Dallas game.
Is it about Garth Brooks?
No, it's not about Garth Brooks. I'm not gonna repeat that one. That's a long, convoluted one. But no, this is check this out, right? The Dallas Stars scored more goals than the Dallas Cowboys had points. So that just gives you a commentary on how bad the Penguins are.
Dallas almost had as many turnovers as points. They had 5 turnovers.
There's that too.
Yeah. Crazy.
Did you come up with that by yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I
mean, you should just tweet it just in case, copyright.
I bet. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a terrible Dallas team. It's a great time. At the end of the day, I love the Eagles, but there's something special when Dallas is that bad. It just, gets you a little giddy.
I thought they'd be tanking. Like, they're out trading for receivers. I'm like, what are they doing? Just go for the first pick.
You get a chance to trade a high mid-round pick for Mingo, man. You take that. You take that every time, right?
I mean, especially.
I think the moment was
the savior of Dallas.
I think the moment was Jerry Jones saying that they feel like they're getting quality play out of Ezekiel Elliott, who's averaging like 3.2 yards per carry and missed meetings and has been suspended.
Can we talk about Tony Romo glazing the Cowboys that whole time? Like, it wasn't until like the fourth quarter when the game was over that Tony Romo finally said something good about the Eagles. It was just, oh man, Zeke Elliott's gonna come in here and run all over the Eagles, fumbles it into the end zone. Like, oh, but you know what? He's going to come back next drive. It's like, Tony, man, give it up. Don't allow that guy to do Eagles, Cowboys games anymore. I like the dude. I like his commentary, but that was ridiculous, man.
Give me Jason Garrett back.
He's a superstar. He's a superstar still, dude.
Yeah, I guess so, man. But yeah, put Jordan Hicks up there in a booth, and we'll see what happens. You know what I mean?
All right, boys. It's Eric's favorite part of the week. Because it only happens on Tuesdays, baby. Well, no, it happens on Saturday, but this week's on Tuesday.
It's a weird week. I'm so excited.
It's prediction time. I'll let you guys go first. I'll finish it off.
Oh my God! Man.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No, I mean, I'll start. It's tough because, like, I'm not used to giving, and for weird, and this is going to sound bad, but I'm not used to giving the Commanders or any reiteration of a Washington team credit as far as, being a threat, because it happens. Like, the last time I saw it happen when they were credible, I guess, well, I mean credible, was probably like Robert Griffin. I guess the one year they got into the postseason was like, Taylor Heineke, but that's because the Eagles started like Nate Sudfeld. So there's that. It's very few and far between. I don't know what to say about this. This is different. Philadelphia, let's go 21-17, man. I think it's going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game between the two. I'm going to go Philadelphia 21-17. And, keep rolling with the win streak. You know, I hate to think about win streaks in general. I mean, I know Sirianni already kind of said, like, you know, we hate to think about win streaks, but here I am on a podcast saying win streak. So let's roll with it. 21-17 Philadelphia.
You want to go
Yeah,
next?
I mean, what's the spreads? What, 3.5? I think the last I saw. So that leads me to believe that they think it's going to be close. Like I said earlier, I don't know that, and I love this Washington team. I just don't know that they're ready for this prime time. Here we are, we're ready to go. Maybe they are, but I'm not ready to put them there. And again, I don't think the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, but they do have this momentum going. They have the streak going.
Whoa. You don't just drop the S word like that and say you don't think it's happening, bro.
People are talking about it, man. You know, these national pundits are now like all about it. They're like, oh, the Eagles, here they are. They're the best team no one's talking about, or I guess everyone's talking about them now. But my prediction, I got the Eagles winning. And I think I'm going to say 27-17. I think it's comfortable, but not too comfortable.
Yeah, I think my line of thinking is about the same as Mike's, where it's a good Commanders team. I think that the one thing I will say, you know, you look at the Steelers game and it was like 1 yard touchdown, 1 yard touchdown, 1 yard touchdown. Like this team can put together drives, and you know it is a bend but don't break Philly defense. You know, I think that they stopped them from getting touchdowns, but the ability to drive the field and keep them in it, I think will play a factor. Like I think that it's going to be a case where unless the Eagles start off hot and just kind of don't slow down, that Washington's going to be able to stay in it up until close to the end. And then I just think star power kind of overrides them. So I'm going to say 31-23. I know 23 is a weird score, but I think it's field goals. I think they just are keep kicking field goals, keep getting close. I think another factor too is Jalen Hurts turnovers. I think they maybe get some short fields, unfortunately. You know, we didn't talk much about the defense, but the Washington defense has some guys too, right? And you know, it's one of those games where Jalen Hurts sometimes, you know, those lights shine a little brighter for him than the rest of the team. He sometimes, you know, hopefully not, but sometimes kind of gets in his own way with some of those. So I think 31-23, and I think that 31 really separates them, but it's late in the game.
Well, Morgan, at least the lights can't shine brighter than the sun.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, Cooper DeJean's gonna, like, how tan is he now? Is he like? He's got to have a good tan on. Like,
he's as orange as Tony Roman was on Sunday.
Yeah, man.
I think what Mike said, it's nail on the head, right? Like, this is a good Commanders team, right? But as the lights have gotten brighter for them, they haven't faltered. They just haven't been good enough. And I feel like the momentum that's carrying the Eagles right now on offense, on defense, what nobody's talking about is they scored in the first quarter in back-to-back weeks, which is a tremendous effort on their part, right? I think that momentum's on top. That momentum is going to carry them to a win. On top of the fact that you know the Eagles are playing at home, like the link being at that game when they were taking on the Jaguars for Shady McCoy's Hall of Fame night, for the Kelly Green night, like that place was loud and that place was shaking. You're talking about a potentially number one seed in the NFC East, drawing closer to the Lions as well as in the conference. Like this game has huge playoff implications. This place is like the whole city is gonna probably be shaking because of this game, and I don't see any team coming in there against this team at this very moment and wiping them off. Wiping them off the map. I think Eagles actually win 34-28. I think it's a little bit of a high scoring game towards the second half. I think they get off to a fast start in the first half. They kind of fluster Jayden Daniels in the first half, which leads to Washington having like a low score. Second half, things start picking up, and the Eagles just have to, just matching 1-for-1 and keeping that lead. But I think that, I think it's gonna be a high scoring game.
Do you know what kind of reminds me of? And I don't know if you guys get this at all, but like if you get the same idea, but it kind of reminds me of last year when Miami came to town. A little bit different, but similar implications.
Yeah.
I know it's a division game. So, there's a little bit more on the line, but, the Eagles, everyone's kind of like, are they getting good? Are they not? And, you have this team that's kind of high flying. They're able to put up points. and the Eagles defense just showed up to play. That would be awesome to see, man.
And we know Jalen shows up against opposing quarterbacks that are considered above him. He said it in the Bengals after the Bengals game, right? I have a standard too, and there's no way he's going to overlook the fact that Jayden Daniels was considered the best QB in the NFC East for the better part of the first half of the season so far.
Followed closely by Cooper Rush, 6-2 Cooper Rush, right?
It's a little bit disrespectful that the Flyers play on the same night in Ottawa. So it's like, what do I do? You know, I do have to tune into that game. So I'm going to try to live tweet from our profile, but I can't guarantee that it's going to be.
Don't go to Ottawa.
Oh, I'm not.
Watch the game, but just avoid.
Well,
it's our nation's capital.
I will say this: one of our other writers will be at the game in Ottawa, so he's making the trip for me. And at the end of the day, I guess he can cover it. There you go, perfect. Figured it out.
Speaking of our writers, Mike's actually going to be at the game covering for PSN that night.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There you go,
they got amazing food. I was definitely eating all day the other time.
They do.
Yeah,
they
really
always have a
good
nice
food,
spread
man.
there.
Yeah, I can't complain. But yeah, I mean, definitely, first and foremost, I didn't get to really, really greatly introduce you, Mike, as one of our lead writers in the beginning. But for the people that are weirdly unaware of who you are, if you just give them your plug and where to find you.
Yeah, Mike Greger, at Mike_Greger on Twitter. Maybe I'll be joining the Blue Sky. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Might be switching over there soon. We'll check that out. And Philly Sports Network, where I'm writing. I do some freelance work for the Eagles website once in a while, and whoever else will have me. But my main work's here on Philly Sports Network.
Sounds good. Any last thoughts, boys, before we sign off and I finish my beautiful salad that's just been staring at me the whole time?
No, man, I don't want to keep you for your salad, man. Thanks for taking the time. Honestly, we appreciate you. We really do.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will be covering the game on Thursday, as we said. So if there's anything thing that you guys want me to find out or ask anyone in the locker room, or any of our listeners want to know, just hit me up and I'll see if I can get it in and ask those questions for you.
Create a mailbag.
We should do a mailbag. That's a good idea. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Cool. There we go.
For all intents and purposes, the first question would be, what's the spread like, and are there hot dogs? Because that's what we have at the Flyers game.
They give you hot dogs, what, halftime, Brian? I think they give you the hot dogs?
Yeah. And weirdly, I feel like I'm the only one that ever eats the hot dogs. Like, everybody just, looks around and they just don't touch it. And I'm over here let me get two of them. Little mustard. By the way, I don't know what brand this is, but the Eagles have the best honey mustard I've ever had in my life, because it's
is
real
it the
honey.
Mike's?
I don't know. It's
okay.
I don't know, but it's in a jar, dude. It's freaking amazing, and I always forget to look at the brand name.
It's in a jar, dude. What kind of bougie stuff from the real deli are you bringing?
But it's real honey mustard. You taste the honey in it. It's just. Mike, you gotta take a picture of it for me and then just send it to me so I can go.
You gotta take a picture to me so I can send it to the Flyers PR and be like, "Dog, they got jarred mustard."
What, they just Flyers? They just give it to you in your hands. They just squirt it in.
Oh, dude, I'm very appreciative for what we had now. But for the longest time, it was soft pretzels that were sort of hard, so I called them hard soft pretzels. Yeah. And then now, since Jones, I believe full on that this is a Keith Jones thing. So the reason why media just has all the hot dogs you want is just because Jonesy's the man. So we have the Mike's amazing mustard, and then the Heinz ketchup and relish, and then all the dogs you can mustard. So
all the dogs you can mustard.
I think I've been in every press. I have been in every press box, and if I was going to rank them, Eagles by far and away kill everyone, and then I'd go Phillies too. Sixers and Flyers both suck. I might put the Sixers over the Flyers, but they're both pretty awful.
I'll put it this way, dude. We got all the Reese's Pieces I could eat, all the hard soft pretzels, all the hot dogs, and then what I do is here's a poor man's mocha latte recipe, dude. This is something that they do in hockey culture. I know this because I took it from a few people that blessed me on it. You take the Swiss Miss and you put it in the cup, then you put the coffee with it with a little bit of creamer. You won't even know. It's
Now
bad for you.
are the Reese's Pieces free for everyone, or is it just because you're heir to the fortune?
No, they're free for everybody, but I also made sure of it too because I'm a caring individual.
That's kind of you, man. That's kind of...
Well, on that note, I hope you guys enjoy your dinner out there.
Of course, man. Enjoy your salad, man. Enjoy your salad. Let us know how that is.
Oh, what a hot dog. Damn it. Yo, Mike, you got to tell me the honey mustard, man.
Now it's a shame salad. You're just going to be like,
ain't good enough no more.
Yeah.
Not enough mustard, dude. Not enough mustard for the salad, dude.
Damn croutons.
Put some hot dogs in it. Just cut up some hot dogs.
Hot dog salad.
Oh, God. But yeah, on that note, we'll be back Saturday morning to recap the Eagles game. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Morgan Burkett, Mike Greger, and we're flipping the birds.
Go Birds!
Yes,
Go
sir.
Birds.
Flip.